Hey everyone, going to take a break from the usual topic of Islam to talk more generally about religion, because there was a debate between two atheists, Aaron Ra and Tjump, on the Modern Day Debates channel in the last few days, and they were talking about whether religion does more harm than good. Now, Tjump was arguing from the position that despite the harm done by religion, there's more good that's done than harm, and he used a bunch of data and made a selection of arguments. Now, I've got a lot of problem with the conclusions he draws, so I wanted to address just one of them, which is comforting people who are dealing with family members who are seriously ill in hospital, or particularly dealing with people who got a terminal illness. Now, I'm going to play a little clip from the debate, which is Aaron Ra talking about his own personal experience with this, and then I'll come back.
I mean, I had a friend who's a genuinely good guy, who's a Southern Baptist preacher, who told me when my own daughter died in Children's Hospital of cancer, not my daughter, my granddaughter, sorry. When she died in Children's Hospital, when she had her second relapse of leukemia, and we knew where that's going, he comes up to me, puts his hand on my shoulder very solemnly, says, "I will pray for you." So I said to the guy, imagine you've got a 4-year-old girl comes up to you, and she realizes you have a terrible problem you need to deal with. This 4-year-old girl comes up to you and says she's going to write a letter to Santa to get you the help that you need, and you know she believes it. Does that give you comfort?
No.
Now imagine she's a 40-year-old man, and she's telling you the same stupid shit. So that's the problem. It's still a lie.
So I think that's a good point. Aaron Ra is making. He's saying that trying to comfort people with things that you can't demonstrate, these ideas of, and it can be from any religion, whether it's reincarnation, if it's certain Eastern faiths, or whether it's the idea of you're going to see your family members in heaven. Using these things which you can't demonstrate to be true as a way to comfort people, it's obviously not going to work with people that don't have those beliefs. But Tjump comes back with this response, and this is what I want to address.
Well, just to jump in there, so if he did that to a Christian, would it make him feel better?
If he did that to, apparently some people like being lied to.
Yeah, so then lots of people are Christian, right? So if he goes up to, say, 100 people in a hospital, one of them is you, one of them, which obviously would hurt you, hurt me, because we are insulted by that, we are ex-religious, we don't think it's a valid ideology. But for the 90 other people...
I don't want to say hurt or insulted. I mean, that's obviously irritating.
The point is that the 90 other people he went to that day, he helped. He made them feel better. He made them feel comforted. He allowed them to emotionally cope with the situation and move forward in life. And so even if he did harm you in some way, which is not the right word, but the majority of the work he did that day was positive. He helped more people by a significant margin than the amount he hurt.
Now, on the face of it, you could say that's true. If you have this belief that you're going to see your loved ones in heaven or in some kind of afterlife, then having somebody come and make those comments to say we're going to pray for you or you're going to see him in heaven, yeah, that may provide some comfort to those who believe that stuff. But I don't think you can reasonably put that into the column of therefore religion is more help than harm, because I think religion is a lot of the cause of the elevated anxiety with dealing with death, because rather than having a society which from the outset actually gets people to deal with our mortality in a rational kind of way, every major society on the planet starts with some form of this lie to begin with, that death isn't really death. So therefore, it's essentially kicking the ball down the road and saying you don't need to deal with your mortality because there isn't really any mortality here. You're going to go on to some kind of other life, whether that be in heaven or whether reincarnation or the spirit realm or whatever else. So rather than having a society which builds the mental fortitude in people from a young age to say, look, as far as we know, as far as all the evidence goes, we are on one ride here, and this ride does have an end. rather than building that into the character of people, how you're going to deal with that, to accept that ultimate truth, and therefore to try and maximize the most, make the most you can get out of life, cherish every moment, spend that time with your loved ones, really appreciate the good things around you, rather than that, which I think ultimately is going to help you when you are facing the terrible situation of losing loved ones and or dying yourself. I think you're already going to be more um you're going to have more mental steel to deal with that, and therefore you're not going to need the kind of comfort that that lie is provided through religion. So therefore, I think because we do this, because we allow religion to be the kind of band-aid, which means that we don't actually deal with our own mortality in a mature way, it therefore, yes, it can provide some comfort, but the comfort it's providing is for the anxiety that we could have mitigated in the first place if we were just honest about death. And I don't think any culture in the world really properly deals with death. It's some form of this lie that pretends that you are somehow immortal, that you can somehow cheat death with one of these religious ideologies. And therefore, it leaves you vulnerable for your whole life. Once you're actually smack up in front of the reality, when you're facing your own mortality, or particularly the people you love, then I think it's put you already at a disadvantage. So any comfort that then repeating those religious claims which you've not been able to demonstrate, I think it's artificial. I think it was in a Simpsons episode. I don't, I put it into this kind of category where the Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson he's talking about alcohol, but I think it's kind of the same thing. He says,
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
and I put this in the same way. I'm saying that the problem of dealing with loss and with our own mortality, I think the anxiety is elevated by the fact that we've used religion um, as a comfortable deceit, which has prevented us finding any more um, long-term, mature, emotional way of dealing with our own mortality. So therefore, it's caused a problem in the first place. If we hadn't had religion taking that role, we can find other ways to come to terms with that and hardwire it in from a young age to say, look, yes, we are mortal, and this is what we have to deal with. And so therefore it is the cause of the very thing that it sort of temporarily mitigates in the way that Tjump is talking about. Yes, you can get your pastor in the hospital to come and give you a bit of comfort, but you're only needing that comfort to because you've bought into a lie that you're somehow immortal and now you need a top up of it. So I don't think it can legitimately be put into the column of doing more good than harm. I think ultimately we're looking at a situation where religion has in some way created that problem. And again, I'm not trying to trivialize grief and death anxiety. These are things, there's going to be a certain amount of stress to these things, regardless of what system you have, to try and mentally cope with them. But I think if we built into a way, if we built into our education system from a young age to say, look, this is a biological fact, this ride is not forever, then I think we've got time to come to terms with that. We're not going to lie to ourselves about that. And then I think we're going to build mentally stronger people who can actually can deal with the emotional difficulty of death and with grief. And I think there are healthier ways to do it than these kind of so-called comforting lines. I've got a lot of other thoughts about some of the other arguments that you use, because I think there are other objections. There are other aspects like talking about wars and stuff like that, which I would have some objections to as well. So if people are interested in hearing my thoughts on this, then maybe I can make a couple more of these videos. Anyone who's looking for Islamic content, normal service will be resumed tomorrow. By the time you're listening to this, I'll be working on another video, so that should be out tomorrow. So yeah, see you in the next one.